Hi, this is Vivek. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at the for loops in Java. In Java, there are two variants of for loops, the basic for loop and the enhanced for loop, which is also known as the for each loop. In this tutorial, we'll be focusing on the basic for loops, and the enhanced for loops we'll be looking in the array tutorial part. So let's see, this is the structure of a basic for loop. It starts with a for keyword, and within the parentheses we give three parts here. The first one is the declaration and initialization part, where we declare some variables that are accessible within the for loop only. And the second part is a Boolean expression part, where this condition is returning true or false, and this will be the condition that will be evaluated to check if the loop should be iterated or not. And this part is the iteration expression. Here we have used an incrementation expression so that the value of I is incremented at each iteration. For loops are basically used in the situations where we are knowing how many times we have to iterate through the same code. So let's see a working example for a for loop. Remove this and for and tab to autocomplete, and we get a value I is equal to 0 and I is less than 10. So this will be working from 0 to 9. Let's S out I. So this looks good, and shift F6. Now here you can see we are getting the output from 0 to 9. When the loop is encountered first, this condition I is equal to 0, this is declared and initialized, and then this condition is evaluated. 0 is less than 10. This looks good, so print this. Then what happens? This is bypassed. This is only used for the first time, and after this is printed, this statement is executed, that is I++. So the value of I becomes 1, and then this is checked, I is less than 10. And this happens for 10 times, and when I becomes 10 here, I++, this is evaluated, 10 is less than 10. So the loop terminates and the flow comes after the loop. Now we'll see a factorial. Now let me tell you what a factorial is. Suppose we have a number equals 5 and we need to calculate the factorial of that number. So what we need is we have to do some multiplication, that is 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. After calculating this, what we get is 120. So 120 is a factorial of 5. Now, if we need to calculate the factorial of some other number, suppose 2. So the factorial would be 2 into 1. So this is a pattern that we can actually implement in a computer. And this is quite easy. So let's see. So let's have two integer value, int number, and this will be taking the number. Let's say I'm taking 5. I want the factorial of 5, and comma fact equals 1. So here I have initialized and assigned some value to two variables. One is fact and one is number. Now let's have a for loop for. So after pressing the tab, we get this structure for a for loop. Int I equal to 0 looks good, and int I is less than 10. This doesn't look good. And why this doesn't look good? Because we are having a number 5 and we need only 5 iterations here. So let's change this to 5. And if we would have a number 10, then the 10 would have been good for the loop. But here let's change this to 1, and I++ looks good. So let's have fact equals fact into I. So let's look if it's looking right or not. I equal to 0. It will make fact 0. Sorry. Let's change this to 1, because whatever is multiplied to 0 will make it 0, and the final result we'll get will be 0, obviously. So let's change it to 1. Here, this is the only reason why I took fact equal to 1. If I would have taken it as a 0, the whole result that we'll be getting at the end would have been 0. Also make it less than equal to 5, because now it is iterating from 1 to 5. So we need 5 iterations. Now this is looking good, and now output factorial equal fact. Now let's shift F6 to see what we get. And here you can see this is a absolutely right result. 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1 is indeed 120. And we can check for some other numbers also. Let's change the number to 10, say, and change it to 10. Shift F6. See, this is quite large result, and you can calculate using your calculator to check for the validity of this result. And one more thing, I have taken a 10 here, so what I needed to do, make two corrections, change this number and change this number. And what if we are taking the input from some user? So remove this 10 and make it equal to number. So now our program is better coded than before, because we don't need to change every time the number is changed. If we make it 5, I don't need to make a change here again. Shift F6 and you'll see 120 here. So this looks good. And one more thing I need to tell here is this part is an optional part, and also this part is an optional part. What we can do is Control X to cut and paste it here. So here you can see I have pasted it here, and this loop is looking good and no warning is given by NetBeans. And this part is also an optional part. I can remove this and put it over here. So now this for loop became a imitation of a while loop, where we are only giving an expression that is evaluated for loop termination. Also, if we remove this part, this is absolutely right, and also we are getting a compile error, that is unreachable statement, because this loop has become a infinite loop now. And do remember, these semicolons are very important. So now let's change the loop back to normal. Now this is looking good. And one more thing I need to tell, this is an iteration statement, not a incrementation statement. Here we can specify anything we like I can cut it from here and paste it here, and take this fact equal to fact into I from here and paste it here. Remove this semicolon and see, this is absolutely right. So what I mean by doing this, that we can have anything here. We can have a S out, let's say S out sample, remove this part. So now here shift F6, and here you can see sample 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 and factorial is equal to 1, because I have fact equal to 1 here. So you can see 5 times the loop is iterated through and we get sample as output. So these are some basic things. You will never need to do something like this. So let's remove this and make it the common for loop with incrementation part here, because I haven't used anything like this, but it is only the concept that you should know. And if you go for some certification program by Oracle, you may need these type of small concepts, because these are asked there in the certification tests. And do remember, if you try to use this outside the loop, let's say I output the value of I here. Now here you can see cannot find symbol, and if we change the declaration part int I to this and change this, we can use it here. Shift F6 and I is 6 here. I have shown this only to tell you that how important a scope of a variable is. So do keep a catchy eye on these variables so that you know where to use them and you know where you have declared them, because these declaration and assignment part can make a lot of errors if you are not careful about them. And one more thing, what you can do with a for loop is you can have multiple initialization statements here. Let's have int j equals 1, and I have to put an int here, int I, and remove this part. So int I equal to 1 and j equal to 1. Also we can have multiple iteration statements here. Let's separate it by a comma and j plus plus. So this is good, we can use them completely without any errors, and it's all upon you how your code works and how you program something given to you. So now this is all for the tutorial, and do practice, and that will be the only thing that will be helpful in making you an expert in Java. So see you next time.